What's up, everybody? I am going to do the long-awaited um, debut of my book reviews. Now, originally I was going to call this Mikey's Library, but as I was thinking about it, um, easier name to remember and just an easier catchier thing, catchier title. It's probably going to be Mikey's Bookstore, so I'm gonna go with that. Same thing still applies. Still gonna rate it using bookmarks, and um, so all that stuff still applies. Again, if you've got a book you want me to read that either I may have read before and haven't read in a while, or I haven't read at all, send me an email. Stinger9959 Crusader or Crusader. Duh, I won't give you guys my address. Stinger9959 at hotmail.com, and just put Mikey's Bookstore in the subject, and I will get to requests before I do my own reviews. So, with that said, I'm gonna hit. I'd originally planned to do 2 books to debut, but I think I'm gonna do 3, just because I just finished this book and it was really good, and I want to include it. So I'm gonna do Stuart Scott's book, Every Day I Fight. I'm gonna do My Life as a Pretender by Chrissy Hind of The Pretenders, and I'm gonna do Anger is an Energy by John Lydon, who, if you don't know, was also known as Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols. So that's what's coming up, and we're gonna get started with this. I'm gonna do Chrissy Hind's book first. Thought it was a really well written book. Explained a lot about how you know the Pretenders actually got started in Europe, in London. She met most of her bandmates in London, and they got their break by playing shows in London. Um, and um, the success that came to them was something that wasn't foreseen by her or her band or anybody. Um, just kind of came out of nowhere, and you know, but with success also, she said, came pitfalls. She lost few of her band members due to drug abuse issues and their own personal demons, and for a while got to a point where she didn't want to do music anymore. So Pretenders kind of parted ways for a little while, and they came back. They released an album. I think it was the 90s, if I remember. And I don't believe they've released an album since. But that was a bunch of critical acclaim too. And again, they were surprised by it. But she said her biggest thing in the book was use this book not to read about my success and everything else, as a cautionary tale, of how things can go really well for you, and then once it gets to go really well, demons take over, and you pretty much can lose everything in the blink of an eye. I thought it was also pretty cool that she was born and raised and actually started before she went to London and was doing all her nomadic stuff. That she was born and raised in Akron, Ohio. Um, you know, that was really cool for me because Ohio boy. But so nice to see Ohio person do well. But definitely it was worth the definitely picking up and reading. I would recommend you to anybody. Like I said, not necessarily for the, highs, because, reading about all this stuff was great, but, you know, I used it as what she intended to be, the down, the pitfalls and the cautionary tales. So, in that case, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4 bookmarks out of 5. The intended purpose of this book was to be, a cautionary tale, but also to be entertaining, and both of those things we can get 4 out of 5. So that is My Life as a Pretender, Reckless, My Life as a Pretender by Chrissy Hind, 4 out of 5. Anger is an Energy by John Lydon, who, like I said, was Johnny Rotten of the Sex Pistols. Was really well written, really honest, and I thought it was interesting, to hear about, like, how the success came to him, how the Sex Pistols came to be, and, how he was creative about 4 or 5 years old, but then he got, I believe it was meningitis, I can't remember, at 7, and literally had to relearn everything, walking, talking, writing, everything, had to relearn everything, and, he didn't even remember, like, who his parents were for a long time, so, he had to, like, literally relearn everything. I thought that was interesting, because he said during that time, he was still creative, he just didn't remember much, and then, once, as he got older and started, getting into, arts and music and things like that, he started to find his voice, and, he would write songs about, like, different oppressions that were going on, and Sex Pistols songs were actually, some of the Sex Pistols songs were actually, about the oppressions that he was seeing in the world, because, he had a creative outlet, and he had a voice that was kind of famous, in his own words, so, he figured why not use that, to, bring light to some of those things, and I thought it was interesting that before the book ever started, the publisher put a note at the beginning of the book that said, any grammatical mess-ups are not stuff that we missed, it's intended, because of, English speak, and the way that, Johnny speaks originally. Anyway, he's kind of got his own language, and I understand they had to do that for, like, people that might not understand that, but me, I didn't really need to hear that, because I know a bunch of people from the UK, so I've kind of picked up on, patterns of speech and ways of speaking that are prevalent in the UK, thanks to everybody that I know from the UK, I love you all, and I don't know, it was a really interesting book, really interesting dichotomy. He did a lot of talk about, it was a lot of talk about him, and, because it was him and Sid Vicious that, first started the Sex Pistols, so, like, their collaborations, were interesting to say the least to read about, because, while they were simpatico about a lot of things, they butted head about a bunch of shit too. So, to see how they would have, like, the biggest arguments and the biggest fights about things, and then, the stuff that would come out of that was just gold, and just an interesting thing, because he talks about, his family, and, how things have gotten along for him as he's gotten older, and how, like, he's changed a lot because he's gotten older, and, because of his family, and his wife, and his and definitely it's definitely a really entertaining, really interesting book. I didn't think when I picked it up, um, I knew it was going to be interesting, but I didn't think it was going to be as spellbinding as it was. Because I really, when I downloaded it to read it, um, I read my books while I'm laying in bed at night. And I found myself when I was reading this book literally sitting up in my bed so I didn't fall asleep because I didn't want to miss anything in this book. So that should tell you right there that this book is well worth getting. It's over 500 pages, so it's going to take some time for you to read, but it's definitely worth picking up if you can. And I'm going to go ahead and give this one 5 out of 5 just because of how spellbinding it was and just how interesting John Lydon the man is, and the insight that was given into the Johnny Ryan persona. Definitely worth picking up, 5 out of 5, and if it's a book that you don't have on your list of books that are considered must read, anybody that reads books needs to put this book on their must read list. It's that good. And that's going to lead us to the third and final book, which is Every Day I Fight. It's by Stuart Scott. It was done before he died, which he died like a few months or weeks, I can't remember, after the ESPYs last year. And I'll be honest with you, this was a book that was hard to get through. I thought on many occasions I was gonna have to put it down and not be able to finish it, just because of the sadness that is portrayed in this book. Not necessarily by him, through his fight with this, but just how sad it got in parts, and everything that we saw, because he fought his fight publicly, everything that we saw, every sports center that he did, every speech that he made, everything that we saw was nothing compared to what we didn't see. And based off of this book, he was my favorite SportsCenter anchor of all time. The first time I ever saw him was 1993 on ESPN2, when they did Sports Night, when him and Susie Colbert and Mike Golick did Sports Night when ESPN2 first started. I loved him from that point because, I related to him. He made hip-hop culture references, and he made his delivery was his. So from 93 until he stopped being able to do sports centers, which was I believe June maybe of 2015. Whenever he did SportsCenter, that was a point of view for me. But to hear like how he dealt with the diagnosis and then the many treatments that he went through, because he went through a few different types of treatment to try to get this. He went through a few clinical trials to try to beat this, and there for a while they thought he was, but then it kind of reared its ugly head again, and by the time it came back, it had metastasized to a point where they couldn't do anything about it. You know, his daughters, Taylor and Sydney, were a prevalent part of this book because he said he had to fight like hell for for them and to be there for them, and he did that until the day he died, basically. Um, so yeah, basically, again, this is another book that should be on anybody's must-read list. We're going to give it 5 out of 5 bookmarks on that one. So that makes Chrissy Hine 4 out of 5. John Lydon's book 5 out of 5, and Source Scott's book 5 out of 5. Definitely pick up all three. Must reads are John Lydon's book and Source Scott's book. Recommended read is Chrissy Hines, but I wouldn't put it on my must read list. And with that said, I'm gonna stop and post this, and you guys will see some more content again later. So thanks for listening. This has been the debut of Mikey's Bookstore, and we will talk again soon. Love y'all.